Today, we're going to make a claim and use evidence from the text to provide an explanation. Raise of hands. Who remembers this book? Yeah, me too. We should all have our hands up. Today, we're going to go back to the beginning of the school year when we learned some of the reasons why Harriet Tubman had a good heart. So first, we need to hop into our time machine. Double our seatbelts and put on our oxygen mask, just in case. You never know with time travel. And let's get ready to jump back in time to when we were all writing our essays about Harriet Tubman. This is what I had written weeks ago. As you can see, it's very similar to what you were all tasked with writing yesterday. And you may notice it is the same format or layout as the information essays that you've been putting time and energy into. So, before we can add our text evidence, our objective for the day, we need to remind ourselves of the thesis statement and examples. It's important to remember this because today we'll be citing text evidence, and we want to make sure that we're using evidence that supports our examples and makes our thesis, the main idea, even stronger. Can I get a scholar to come off mute with a strong voice and read my thesis statement? Thanks for reading for the team. Can I also get a brave scholar to come off mute and read my examples? Great, thanks for your help. So it looks like I'm going to be finding text evidence about the laws and how Harriet continued to risk her life for others. Let's get out of our time machine, take off our seatbelt, take off our mask, and let's start citing some evidence. So I remember reading in the text something about a law that was used to scare people so they wouldn't help enslaved people. So I first need to look through the text and find where it's talking about the law. Here it is. Finally, the group reached the safe house, but the station master wouldn't let them in. He was afraid of the Fugitive Slave Act. The new law said that anyone helping runaway slaves could be punished. Reminds me of the zero tolerance law Trump had in place for immigrants. Well, now I'm ready to add my thoughts to this important piece of text evidence that I underlined. The new law said that anyone helping runaways could be severely punished. So first, I'm going to put the title of the source, Escape North. For the independent practice, you'll also need to include the source number, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, and the paragraph you found it on. Secondly, thinking about what I read, I know the station master was scared to help Harriet and the enslaved people because he was fearful for himself. I believe the Fugitive Slave Act was enacted as a way to scare people so they wouldn't want to help enslaved people. Step 3, citing my evidence. With a simple sentence stem in the book Escape North and adding in the page number, page 35, I can use my quotation marks before the quote, "The new law said that anyone helping slaves could be severely punished," and adding the quotation after the text. Now my step 3 is complete. Lastly, step 4. I'm ready to blend my thoughts with the text evidence and explain why this is important. What is it showing the reader? This shows the government would hurt and even kill people who were helping enslaved people reach freedom. Because of this law, people were afraid to help each other. Great. We've elaborated on our first example about the law in place that made it dangerous to help others. Now we're ready to move on to example 2, where we're going to elaborate on how Harriet accepted the risk and continued to help others. So I remember reading in this text, at the end it mentions how many people were freed because of Harriet. So I first need to look through the text and find where it's talking about all the people she helped. Here it is. Harriet died at the age of 93. She had made at least 19 trips south and brought more than 300 people out of slavery. I never run a train off the track and I've never lost a passenger, she liked to say. Harriet was very dedicated to helping people get out of slavery. Now I'm ready to add my thoughts to this important piece of text evidence that I underlined. She had made at least 19 trips south and brought more than 300 people out of slavery. So, does anybody remember what I need to do first? Hint, I first need to think about where the text evidence is coming from, looking for a writer to tell me step 1. Yeah, we need to identify the source. Again, I'll be using Escape North. Reminder, you'll be using your source number and your paragraph for your informational essay. Step 2. Thinking about my previous example, the Fugitive Slave Act, I think it's important to remember that even with these laws in place, Harriet continued to be a conductor on the Underground Railroad. So I'm going to say, even with harsh laws and huge risks, Harriet worked for years as a conductor of the Underground Railroad, the secretive path to freedom for hundreds of slaves. Great, moving on to step 3. I need to cite that evidence we found. So Kipsters, what are some important things that I need to include when I cite evidence? I'm hoping some brave scholars are going to come off mute and share their knowledge with the team. Great. Thanks for sharing. I heard 2 important points. We need to include where we found the text evidence and the quotation marks before and after the text. So I'm going to say at the end of the book, on page 48, it says, quotation mark, she made at least 19 trips south and brought more than 300 people out of slavery, quotation mark. Lastly, step 4, I'm ready to blend my thoughts with the text evidence and explain why this is important, what it's showing the reader. This shows that Harriet risked her life again and again to help people escape the South and get to freedom in the North. Now you'll have time to work on your informative essay, citing that text evidence that can be used to support your thesis statement, telling the reader how people responded to Trump's zero tolerance law. Here are some sentence stems to help you start each step.